Hey everyone, welcome to the Fargo 3D Printing Show, episode 51 of the podcast. Jake Clark and John Schneider today. So we're going to do two different things. We're going to give a little bit of a CES preview and kind of what's going to be there 3D printing wise, what we're going to see, what we're hoping for, and then we're going to talk about the new news that came out of 3D Systems earlier this week about their Cubify line. So starting out with CES, we're going to be there this coming week, our whole team. We're going to have a little bit of a podcast out there and a meetup, so definitely come out and hang out with us. But there's a couple printers that we're really excited about. So the Raise 3D is going to be out there, and we saw this at Santa Clara, and this is a really, really interesting machine. It has a really great big build volume. It just looks well built, and they just started sending their first, what was it? They're 50 super early bird printers as of December 25th.
Which, as we've seen with a lot of Kickstarted and other crowdfunding 3D printers that very rarely deliver on their Kickstarting promises, the fact that Raise 3D has actually delivered on the first 50 printers is a pretty huge deal. I mean, we didn't really have any doubts that they were going to be able to do this. They've already developed a 3D printer in the past. They'd already shipped 3D printers in the past. They had all the manufacturing pipeline figured out, and we had seen an actual 3D printer of theirs running.
3 of them.
Yeah, the 3 different sizes running at that Inside 3D Printing conference in Santa Clara. So it wasn't just vaporware, it wasn't just keyshot renderings of what they thought the hardware was going to look like, or not just empty shells of what the hardware looked like, but not how it functioned. So again, Raise 3D is looking very promising as a printer. I'm excited to hear from their team at CES what things they have encountered that they didn't expect, or how things are going. We'll definitely have some footage of those printers in action while we're there.
And hopefully some interviews as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's one of the big things we're doing differently this year from last year. Last year we had a much smaller crew that went there. It was mainly Jake and I and my girlfriend went with. So we weren't able to spend as much time interviewing the people, and it was our first year at CES. We were just kind of taking it all in. This year we've got more of an action plan on what we're going to do when we're there. So you'll actually have stuff to watch instead of just listening to us talk about stuff.
Yeah, and seeing just random pictures and random video shots.
Yeah, and much better shot photos, videos, all that stuff. Thanks to Eric behind the camera, and I think Sarah as well is going to be helping out quite a bit with that.
So it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. I know we've been talking about this for the last couple months. So once we get out there and really see what's going on and start reporting on what we're seeing, it's going to be cool.
Okay, so Raise 3D, that's one. We already have a pretty good idea of what we're getting ourselves into there. Mm-hmm. Another one we're really looking forward to seeing is the Lulzbot booth.
Yes.
So Lulzbot, they're coming out with their new version of the Taz. I can't remember if they're calling it the Taz 6 or the Taz Pro.
Yeah, I think they are calling it the Taz 6.
Which I kind of like that. I like that if they would keep that naming convention, but I could also see them going with Taz Pro, since you have the Lulzbot Mini, and then maybe you have the Lulzbot Pro. Maybe they get rid of the Taz name entirely. Some good things that we know will be coming out with the new version of the Taz is the same type of auto leveling that is on the Lulzbot Mini. Mm-hmm. They're also doing some things to really increase the rigidity of the printer to make it so, like for example, for the x-axis, they're going to use larger diameter linear rods. That way there'll be less flex from the weight of the print head. They're also going to be using some injection molded parts. They're going to have the power supply integrated into the main electronics enclosure. So these are just some things that we know for sure, but we haven't had a chance to see the printer in action yet. And we'll learn more about that when we're at CES. So that's out of Lulzbot. That's what we know is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Jake, what are some of the other companies that we're looking forward to seeing?
So some of the other ones that are going to be out there is Airwolf, which they have a lot of different materials for the printer. They just released the Axiom a while back, so we saw that in action while we were in Colorado at a trade show. So that was cool to see that. Be very creative. This one has actually surprised me a little bit. There's a lot of buzz. Did not plan that one.
This is going to be a long podcast.
So there's so that's going to be out there, and there has been actually a lot of commotion around that.
You can still say buzz, Jake. I'll allow it.
There's going to be a lot of buzz around that one lately. So I'm kind of interested to see what that one's all about. I don't know if we've seen it before.
Yeah, we've seen it in action multiple times. It
Was
seems
it
to
at Santa
put
Clara?
out. Yes.
Okay.
It seems to put out really nice prints. It has an interesting form factor. It kind of melds some of the
Briefcase ones?
No, it's not that. It looks like it takes some of the design aesthetics from the Cube Pro 3D printer line, but it has the print bed offset a little bit more. It's just a really sleek looking 3D printer. We're not really sure if they're going to be announcing anything new. And that's the thing with a lot of the companies we're going to talk about. Some of them are just there so that they're presenting a face at the trade show. So Jake, it looks like you're looking at full spectrum laser.
Yeah.
Right now.
I mean, there's a lot of SLA machines this year, a lot of SLA. So it's kind of interesting to see FDM kind of taking a back seat, so to speak, just as far as the list goes. But I mean, you're still going to have your Stratasys and your 3D Systems and your MakerBot there and Lulzbot and a bunch of other ones. But so this one's going to be out there. I know we've seen, I think their Pegasus quite often at a bunch of different trade shows. We've seen their Pegasus at a bunch of different trade shows. The parts were pretty decent, so if they come out with anything new, they got a couple larger machines. I know Envision Tech is going to be out there. They're kind of a higher end SLA machine, kind of along the same lines as, starts with a P, help me out, Austria, Germany company, Minneapolis.
P.
I think it starts with a P.
One of them you might be thinking of is Rapid Shape. That's a German company. I don't know. Yeah, Prodways. Yeah,
that's who I was thinking about. It's kind of along the lines of Prodways.
I don't know if Prodways is going to be at the show.
I don't think so.
Well, and that would make sense because this isn't really Prodways doesn't really have any consumer-facing 3D printers.
No, they're more on the industrial professional side.
I mean, another good example of that is DWS Lab. Now, we stopped at their booth last year, and we were really taken by one of the printers that they were coming out with, the XFab 3D printer. So this is another SLA-style 3D printer, has a nice sized build volume, price point around $5,000, and they have a really wide material selection. I was just on their website a little bit ago, and it looks like they have 10 or a dozen different materials, some of them flexible, some of them polypropylene-like, many of them ABS-like, rigid, some also, your typical ones, wax for doing jewelry casting.
And that one, we're really excited about to see if they are going to break into the North American market because they've been primarily European for the last couple of years. They've been developing their product. Last year, I think, was like their debut of that machine. So it's really going to be cool to see if that's actually going to come to market. Another one that we saw, their booth was really weird. It looks like an F-16 cockpit. It's called Old World Labs, and they had just the machine sitting in the middle, and I don't even know if it was running, but they just had like these ropes around the outside. It's just a machine with a very nice carpeted area and ropes around it. So you couldn't even get close to the machine.
It made an impression, but I'm not really sure it's the right type of show for that printer to be exhibited at. It seems to be, I think the price point was in the tens of thousands.
29,000.
Yeah, so it's outside of what a lot of consumer 3D printing stuff would be. I mean, I could see it maybe if they're trying to sell it to a printing bureau for doing stuff for the consumer market, but it just seems like for what you get, it seems like a high price point, and I'm sure it does a very nice job printing, but their presence at CES really confused us last year.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they have this year out there, and if they're going to announce anything, and kind of see what they're all about. Because like I said, their booth was kind of odd. Other one that's going to be out there, we're always looking at the Mark Forge. We actually saw that in action at a Minneapolis trade show a couple months ago, which was really interesting how it operates. It actually cuts the filament and then deposits the whole thing, and then so it's just interesting how that whole printer works. Your Form Labs is going to be out there. There's a lot of SLA out there. Robo 3D, it's always interesting to see the Robo 3D. They were actually on a Fine Brothers YouTube Reacts kind of thing. It was the Elders React to 3D printing. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's kind of interesting. They actually have the Robo 3D printer out there. So it's interesting to see that. Sprint Ray is another one that we've been keeping our eye on. as well. They're kind of in the same realm as the DWS Labs. Filament manufacturers, there's going to be a couple out there. You got your Ninja Flex, you got your Toner Plastics, eSun, but so you're going to have your general ones out there. It'll be interesting to see if they have anything new to announce, especially Ninja Flex. Not a lot of scanners this year.
No,
Fuel 3D is going to be there, and Artec is going to be there as well. And those are kind of the two we've really seen in action.
It's just the reality with 3D scanners is for something that's at a consumer price point, you don't have the resolution that a lot of consumers are expecting from a 3D scanner. I mean, your 3D system scanners can, your $400 and $500 scanners, they can pull in larger objects, get the general shape, even pull in color information. But if you're trying to scan in something like your phone to try and design a case for it, you're just not going to be able to do it.
An engineered product.
And even for the high-end 3D scanners, it's difficult to do that. Unless you're going with something like a Fargo scanner where you're not just looking at the tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases you're looking at $100,000 plus to get that really accurate measurement. It's just not, it's not a consumer product.
And a lot of these scanners bring in as an STL, and you can't really edit it in something like SolidWorks or Inventor easily. So bridging that software gap is something that I think GeoMagic has done, which is a child of 3D Systems. I know they've done it, and they've done it pretty decently, or pretty
decent job.
Thank you. But yeah, so I mean that's kind of what we got for the CES preview. We're really excited to see what MakerBot comes with. We're really excited to see what 3D Systems has to come out with.
Yeah,
or do.
3D Systems had a very large booth last year. I think
both MakerBot and 3D Systems did.
Yeah, but 3D Systems in particular, I mean, they were both big, but I think 3D Systems had either the largest or second largest, maybe behind XYZ Printing.
Yes.
XYZ Printing had a very large booth. But now that 3D Systems has really pulled back a lot of its operation stuff, and we're going to talk about some of that in a second, I'm wondering if they still have a large booth because they had committed and reserved a large booth last year at this time. I'm sure for a booth that size, you're reserving it not even months, but possibly years in advance. So it might be something that's already paid for. I'm sure the mood around the 3D Systems booth is not going to be great. I know that there are a lot of products that they showed at their booth last year that they said was going to be out in the next year, and it's next year and it still hasn't happened. The SchefJet 3D printers still not commercially available. The CubeJet, which was supposed to be a $5,000 full color 3D printer, not, as far as we know, nowhere close to being released. And that was announced 2 years ago at CES. Their SaraJet, also announced 2 years ago at CES. Haven't really heard anything from them on that.
What did they release last year that was multicolored?
The Cube Pro C.
Yeah, and nothing along that line
We haven't
either.
heard anything about that. And that was an acquisition of a company called Bot Objects, I think.
Out of Europe?
I don't know if that one was out of Europe, because I think it was a different. I know it's not the same company that they derived the Cube Pro from. It was a completely different company. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to be pushing this year.
Anything.
So I mean, we might as well get into this now.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into what happens.
So when we talked about that 3dprintingindustry.com article about Avi Reichenthal stepping down from 3D Systems, we had talked about rumors of the Cubify group being laid off. It turns out that rumor was true. I think that was a Massachusetts-based office, and I think it was about 80 or 90 employees that were laid off. So we were wondering what was going to happen with the Cubify line of printers. Now, the Cubify line of printers was the Cube, the Cube Pro, and the ProJet 1200. Now, we had always wondered what was going to happen with those printers anyway, because it just never really seemed to fit into 3D Systems' overall strategy. Well, today we found out that 3D Systems is completely discontinuing and will be discontinuing support for the Cube line of 3D printers. So the Cube is the $999 3D printer, uses proprietary filament, 2 print jets, and what I'm really frustrated about on this is it was a really good printer. Like, we got really nice quality prints out of it, but the proprietary filament cartridges meant that it didn't make sense for us to print using it a lot. The cartridges, and this goes for the Cube Pro and the Cube, they're 3.5 to 4 times as expensive as MakerBot filament. And MakerBot filament is on the high side already of the filament-based 3D printers. So if you compare it to something like Shark filament, I mean, we're talking, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's at least 6 to 8 times more expensive than Shark filament. If you're printing a lot of stuff, these printers don't make sense. You had to have a low price point, but it's difficult to justify getting that printer unless you're only going to be printing small amounts. 3D Systems will still be producing cartridges for the Cube 3 for the foreseeable future, especially since that's where 3D Systems was planning on making its money on these printers, was on the materials. So it makes sense they'll keep manufacturing that. So if you own a Cube 3, don't worry, you're not going to be left high and dry in the dark. They're still going to have some ongoing support for the Cube 3, but the inventory they have now, once that's gone, it's gone. I'm sure you're going to start seeing some real fire sales of these printers. We're not sure if anyone's hacked these yet to use open source electronics and open filament. If someone has, the printer might make sense to pick up, gut the electronics, put your own in, because like I said, we were getting really good quality prints out of it. And with having 2 print jets, I mean, that's almost unheard of for the Cube Pro, or for 3D printers at that price point, and doing the multi-jet printing well. I mean, that's the key thing. It did it really well.
Yeah, like you said, it was fast. Sorry, continue.
Well,
I'm trying to look for something different.
So
here.
3D Systems will still keep the Cube Pro line on and going. What they found is consumer 3D printing never really picked up the way they thought it was going to. Now the Cube 3, that was aimed at the consumer. It had that low price point, it had that attractive form factor. The Cube Pro software, on the other hand, has been picked up by quite a few engineering firms, design firms, professional users, people that not only have the printer, have a good idea of how to use it, but they go through a lot of material. And the price point with the Cube Pro, I think 3D Systems is actually making money on the hardware and not just on the materials. Now they're making it on both ends, but the Cube Pro just makes more financial sense for them. I understand why they're doing it. I'm hoping that this means what resources they do have for the Cubify line, they can focus it on the Cube Pro. What I'm really hoping happens, although I don't think it will happen, but what I'm really hoping happens is 3D Systems releases a firmware update that opens up their filament format. If you can have it so the Cube 3 can use any filament, yeah, sure, it voids your warranty, it supports on your own,
like
that's fine.
It's the same thing with MakerBot. It voids the warranty of the machine.
But you have the ability to use your own material if you want. You have that ability to choose.
Well, I mean, and if you look at DaVinci going to that more open filament cartridge system like on their Pro, which we just got in the office, excuse me, it just makes sense because you can sell more units of the printer if you have that, instead of trying to lock them into one cartridge system. And we've talked about this and beaten the horse to death on this. And so I think seeing DaVinci as a big player, in my opinion, of the desktop market for that lower price point, shift to having more of that motto, I think is important to look at and watch.
Yeah. And now with our experience with the DaVinci printers, and we ended up bringing 3 in, the Junior, the 1.0, and the 1.0 Pro. They can be good printers, but the build quality on some of the parts internally leave a bit to be desired. For example, on the 1.0 Pro that we got in, the front door sensor won't work because
there's a little lever that sits on the micro switch, so it depresses the switch, and that was missing.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of plastic parts on the inside. You can tell it's made really inexpensively, and it's been doing a good job on print so far. Now we just need to put more hours on it, see how well it holds up to really serious use.
Yeah, kind of our day-to-day that we've subjected the Rep 2s to over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. So I guess
it'll be interesting to see what DaVinci comes out with, because last year they had a chocolate printer.
Yeah,
and
I don't know how many of those they sold.
Well, I mean, I don't like chocolate on my toast. I mean, we could probably put honey and butter in, and I got nothing on that one.
Speaking of chocolate printers, that's another one. I have no idea what's going to happen with 3D Systems. They had that partnership with Hershey's.
And
It was a working prototype. I mean, it was actually 3D printing chocolate there at the show floor, so you knew it worked. It wasn't just an empty shell. But what did I call it again? It's the Cocoa Jet is what 3D Systems called it. So they just have so many products out there. We don't know what the current status is, and even if we get told at the trade show when they think it's going to be coming out, I don't know. I don't know that we can really believe.
I'm going to take it with a truckload of salt.
Yeah, a lot of salt. A lot of salt. Going to be just dehydrated.
You're going to be able to just salt all the roads in both North Dakota and Montana with how much we're going to take with that.
But I think that kind of covers it for 3D Systems. And
it'll be interesting to see how they do in 2016, in just in general, because, we saw Media this past week. They're liquidating their business.
So Media, if you're not familiar, they own the Inside 3D Printing Trade Show,
3dprint.com,
and 3dprintingindustry.com, and a couple other things. I know they also have a robotics trade show. I think it's Robo Universe is the name of that. And
great trade shows.
Yeah, and what we've seen is that, or what they've stated the reason for liquidating is they just haven't seen things grow as quickly as they had anticipated. That and one of the founding members of Media is having some health issues that really accelerated their decision to liquidate. So we hope that the trade shows carry on. But even this last year at Inside 3D Printing, we were a little surprised at how low the attendance was compared to what we thought it was going to be based on the previous year.
And it was also bigger, so the herd could have been thinned a little bit.
But I feel like at least for the people that came through the exhibit hall, you had the same number of people. They were just spread out over twice as much square footage. So it seemed like it was a smaller crowd. It may have been the same size, but...
And we were also told that the Santa Clara one, after the fact, is a little bit slower than the New York one. The New York one is kind of their bigger one out of all of them. Yeah. So I guess we have to kind of... Yeah, we're not sure. I was supposed to go to that one, but we kind of decided not to at the last minute. But.
Well, the general feeling that we're getting is that the 3D printing industry. I mean, we've talked about the hype cycle before. You've got your product launch. You've got your peak of hype, and then you go down into that trough of disillusionment. It bottoms out, and then it goes into the plateau of productivity. I think now we're really hitting that bottom of that trough of disillusionment. It doesn't mean that the 3D printing industry is in any trouble. It just means that a lot of the chaff is really going to get sorted out. You're going to have the companies that are actually sustainable, have working business models, really survive, and as they come out of that trough, really start to thrive. I think Lulzbot is a great example of a company like that. They've got a 3D printer. They didn't build it on hype. They built it on it working. Yeah. So the 3D printing industry is going to continue to expand, definitely. There's no doubt about that. It's just people are being hit with the reality of what 3D printing is useful for, what it's not useful for, and I think what we see at this year's CES is really going to reflect that.
Yeah, and it's going to kind of see where the whole industry is going to go as a whole in the next year and a half. Yeah, I mean. I don't know. I'm excited to go there and just take it all in. And if you guys are out there, I know we had a short little video about our meetup.
Yeah, so that's going to be at the Baccarat Bar at the Bellagio Hotel. It's going to be Thursday, January 7th at about 6:30. So the trade show floor at CES closes at 6. So by 6:30 we should be there.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to seeing all of you. Another thing, we finally got Fargo 3D printing t-shirts in. We've been getting a lot of requests for that, so don't worry. They'll be up on the website in a little bit. T-shirts are going to be $15. And yeah, you should be seeing that within a week of this going up.
Yeah.
So I guess on behalf of myself, John Schneider, Jake Clark of Fargo 3D Printing, we want to thank you for watching. If you haven't already, like our channel, subscribe to us on social media, and if you're going to be in Vegas for CES, definitely hit us up. We'd love to meet you and talk 3D printing.
We'll be collecting dollar bills and money so that we can go gamble and make back.
Yeah, that's our 3D printing fund. Yeah. But, all right. Again, on behalf of both of us, thanks for watching.
Thanks. Oh no! Yuck. Yuck.
Oh, you made it real! You made it real.
I had to.
Oh.
I would
Oh.
have